Well, good evening. My name is Greg Sawyer. I am here for class B321. Can I say? For a hangout this evening. No one else came in from my invitation, so I guess I am a loner tonight. This is on case study responses for Patagonia was our subject for this week. This is lesson 10, which is actually lesson 12. So try not to get confused. What was interesting is, though, I'm 12 miles from the corporate office of Patagonia. They're just up the freeway from where I live. And I've always heard about, seen their products and stuff, but really never knew a lot about the company. So it's really interesting to read about it. And this Yvonne, how he basically came into being in the fashion market, if you can, for outdoor gear. From first building his own little, making his own little equipment for hiking or mountain climbing. And then it just evolved into making products that he liked to wear, that he wanted to make for his friends, etc. So it's not going to be long, but I'm just going to respond to the questions that were asked in the question. I couldn't find something for the lead to go by, which is normally in there. So I just figured go off these questions that were asked, and we'll kind of go from there. But it was very interesting to see how someone just kind of falls into something that they didn't mean to, but what they do leads them into what they've become successful at. And I thought the way in which he structured his company was very interesting. I mean, he wasn't in it for the money. Obviously, you have to have profits to continue the business, but his was more in being more responsible ecologically, is from what I gathered from the reading and stuff. So he sounds like a real interesting guy. Maybe I should stop in and say, hey, I read a thing about you. The first question is, if you were charged with the responsibility to open one of Patagonia's new surf shops, what would you emphasize about the company to applicants to convince them that Patagonia is a satisfying place to work? Well, I think it would depend on what they're applying for. Actually, I know there's different departments in a business, from accounting to sales to marketing to whatever. And if it was myself, I'm in charge of that, and in talking to applicants, I would probably categorize them into different areas. I wouldn't tell them that, but I would look at them as far as what type of personality they had, openness, the personality, if they were enthusiastic, if they had a love for the outdoors, and what their family situation was. Because in the reading, it talked a lot about people can just come and go as they please, as long as things are done, goals are met, and things in their department of things that need to be done are done. They have kind of a free reign. I'm sure they're not paid while they're gone. If they are, then that's where I'm headed. But it just gives them the liberty to schedule their day, to be as productive as they need to be or as they want to be. Some things I wrote down towards the end here. Let's see. Whatever the department that one was to be working in, the need to be a contributor to making all products better would be important. They would need to not be afraid to voice an opinion on material or products. New ideas. Oh, I thought someone was chiming in. New ideas would be welcomed and appreciated, but would need to follow concepts of sustainability and materials that would meet the company's standards. They would need to be proud of working at a company that had set the standards by which many other companies were trying to implement. So that was the first question. I forget how many employees they have now, like 1,000, something like that. And I'm not sure. I know this is their main place. I don't know about other places they have. I didn't research them online, which I normally would have done. But corporate office is just, like I say, 12 miles up the road. Question 2, what steps could you take to make sure that the potential recruits would be passionate about the company and its causes? I would do a couple of different things in my interview with the applicants. Initially, it'd be informal interview, just to get feeling them out, trying to make them feel comfortable, find out more about them, and put them in different categories depending on the answers that we would have and that we would discuss. I wouldn't think answers would be right or wrong. It's just more getting to know them, seeing the type of individual they are, not what it says on the paper, but you get a sense of what kind of person they are just by talking to them. They would need to, oh, never mind. Start like right in the first thing, talk about their family and past experience, and maybe items that they might have on a future bucket list. What do they want to accomplish? What have they accomplished? What kind of schooling have they done? What do they like to do in places, things outside of work? What drives them? What gets them up in the morning? And what makes them happy at what they do? Then I would probably send them home with a questionnaire, something that I needed them to turn back in and that we would evaluate along with the informal interview. And it would say questions about feelings on environmental issues, how time could be used to juggle work and the needs of a family, those special or emergency times. Maybe a question about the responsibility that corporate America has towards the needs of future America. How can corporate America integrate its abilities and needs to sustain itself into a great contributor of our nation's ways and also the needs to being a part of its success? So there's a few things, maybe some other things that might put on there, things to try to get a little more rounded feeling of what kind of individual they are, how they would fit in the mix, and what department would I feel like they might best fit, or if they would fit. Next was, what is it exactly about the let my people serve philosophy that would be so satisfying? And I thought about that, I'm not a surfer, but there are other things I love to do that would take time for. Some of my answers were there's an age-old adage that all you do is punch a time clock. There's that, people in MLMs, that's what they always say. Oh, you're working for somebody else. You're punching a time clock. Work for yourself. Of course, they're in business for a year, maybe two, and then they're gone because the MLM went belly up or there was some sort of infringement on some kind of law that they broke. Not all of them, but I'm just saying. The model that Patagonia said, I think, would sound well in most everyone's ears. Who wouldn't like to decide to get into work an hour later, to let the traffic go by? Who wouldn't like to take off for an hour or two during the day to just get away from the job or to take care of something that needs to be done? You will have those that would take advantage of this freedom, those that would understand the freedom given and be appreciative of it, would give back more than they normally would. They would view this as a true opportunity and not allow a needless waste of time to be seen as a careless choice and run the risk of it being seen and a strike against that opportunity. There would be 1,000 different things that could be thought of, and maybe allow a single mother to pick up her child from school and take her to a family member or babysitter. There are advantages and there could be some disadvantages that would need to be monitored and discussed. What those are, I don't know. Didn't have long enough time to think about it. I have tried to have my own little business, and there are always things you run into that just don't work out. And you have to try to find a way to make it work if you want to make it work. Sometimes the cards are stacked against you. But in those times that I've tried, it's usually been a case of not getting the right people that saw the same vision, pretty much. If you were running one of the shops, would anything concern you about that philosophy? Yes, it would. You'd have people that, if they knew the story and you explained to them and they had that freedom, might take advantage of it. There'd be those that wouldn't. And you'd have to make sure that something was always covered. Someone has to be there to open the store. Someone has to be there to tend it during the day. Someone has to close it. Someone has to, there's certain things in closing out of what your daily receipts are, et cetera, financial, that need to be taken care of. And maybe that stuff needs to be sent into corporate, depending on where the store is. Deposits from monies you got, et cetera. There's many different things. And I wrote down, that was pretty much what I said. There would still be a need to have many things taken care of, and that each of the employees know details and certain job needs to be completed to run a business. Now, if they take off to surf or run an errand, do they expect to get paid? I think I asked that question earlier. So those are just some thoughts I had in the write-up that I did last night. But it sounds great. It sounds like there's other companies that are coming on board that want to be, what's the right word? Be seen as those that are giving back, or those that are ecologically conscious of what they're doing, using less water, using materials that are sustainable, that last longer. Patagonia isn't the cheapest price, from my understanding, but they make materials or make products that people know that they'll last. It's not something they have to buy in 1 or 2 years, something new. I mean, they'll last for quite a while, which is good. And if you're one of those people that are very adventurous, mountain climbers, or whatever it may be, that's what you want. You don't want to be caught out somewhere where your products are not lasting. You aren't products that what's the right word? That will whatever, keep you warm, keep you safe, and be able that you can count on and trust. Well, that's kind of it for now. Thanksgiving is in 2 days, so I'm hoping everybody has a good Thanksgiving, and we will catch everybody on the next one. Not sure where everybody was, but I'm hoping they're enjoying their evening. Thank you.